So, can there be a higher vote threshold imposed on bills in the California legislature than what is contained in the Constitution? California's Constitution, Article 4, Section 8B3, clearly states the following: no bill may be passed unless by roll call vote entered in the journal, a majority of the membership of each house concurs. As a result, in our state constitution, a simple majority of the assembly, 41 affirmative votes in the 80-member assembly, and 21 affirmative votes in the 40-member Senate are required for passage of a bill. Nevertheless, I'm sure that observers of the California legislative process know that there are, in fact, higher vote thresholds required for passage of a bill. Some are obvious because they're found elsewhere in the state constitution. For example, Article 4, Section 8D provides for urgency statutes and says that in each house, the section and the bill shall be passed separately, each by roll call vote entered in the journal, 2/3 of the membership concurring. But now, what about a bill that requires a supermajority vote threshold that's in a statute and not the Constitution? In other words, how does a statute prevail over the constitutional requirement of a majority vote for bills? Well, you have to look at another article of the state constitution in order to answer this question. In Article 2, Section 10 of the California Constitution, it explains this anomaly of where a statute can prevail over the constitutional vote requirement. So Section 10C of Article 2 of the state constitution says, the legislature may amend or repeal an initiative statute by another statute that becomes effective only when approved by the electors, unless the initiative statute permits amendment or repeal without the electors' approval. In other words, Section 10C of Article 2 of the state constitution basically prohibits the legislature from amending a statutory initiative that was placed on the ballot and voted on by a majority of the voters, unless that initiative itself allows amendment by the legislature. One that jumps out to me is the Political Reform Act of 1974, which set up the regulation of lobbyists, political campaigns, created the Fair Political Practices Commission, etc. It was adopted, obviously, in 1974 by the voters as Proposition 9. And this was a statutory initiative, not a constitutional initiative that amends the Constitution. It was a statutory initiative and added the Political Reform Act of 74 to the California Government Code. So we obviously have to turn to the Government Code and the PRA of 74. And we find Section 81012A of the Government Code, and it says the following: this title, meaning the PRA, may be amended to further its purposes by statute, passed in each house of the legislature by a roll call vote entered in the Daily Journal, of course, 2/3 of the membership concurring, and signed by the governor. So the people, in adopting Proposition 9, allows the legislature to make certain amendments to the Political Reform Act of 1974 with a higher, that is a 2/3 vote. That higher vote threshold is found in a statute, obviously, contained in the Government Code. So this is the reason why the answer to the initial question is yes, a statute can, in certain circumstances, actually contain a higher vote threshold than the general rule that's contained in the California Constitution.